From the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight. The Broncos now 3-7 on the season, 7 games remaining in the schedule. To help us preview a little bit of that, the one and only Steve Atwater in studio. What up, At?
What up, R. Edwards? Benjamin Allbright. What's the word?
Well, the word is the season has not gone the way I think a lot of people expected, certainly the team, a lot of fans. The Broncos have now lost both games to the Raiders. They haven't won a division game, those kinds of things. So, again, you got the Panthers right here on the other side. The schedule gets much tougher. I just want to, first of all, check in with you on where this team is at, I guess, in a lot of ways, and what they should be thinking about right now in that locker room.
Well, right now they're in a tough spot just in terms of, aspirations of making the playoffs. I don't know if we're still in. There's still a lot of guys kind of right there, a lot of teams in the middle there, but I think we may be a game or two out of it now. But I haven't checked the odds to see if it's still a possibility. But it's looking pretty grim in terms of us making the playoffs now. So what do you do when you know that you're pretty much out of the playoffs? Now you plan for your job, you plan for respect, you plan for if you're not on this team next year. This is not a time to sell it in, to mail it in and say, all right, hey, I'm shutting it down for the season, because you're always playing for a job when you play in the NFL.
I mean, 100%. And I mean, at this point, one of the things we talked about in Broncos Country Tonight, Ben, is just the idea that down the stretch here, you're trying to improve the overall culture of this team. You're trying to find ways to build successes and stack successes and hopefully put yourself in a position where you're feeling pretty good about this team going into the offseason.
You got to find ways to do that, too. We talked a little bit on the show about setting some goals. Like, we're going to develop Greg Dulcich, Brandon Johnson, Jalen Virgil, guys like that. Get these young guys some reps, try to develop them. We're going to see who's the bedrock of this team going forward, because there's a lot of things to look at. We talk about the streak, about losing to Kansas City. You realize the Broncos lost 6 straight to the Raiders. We've been swept by 3 straight Raiders head coaches. Like, that's a streak we need to get rid of. Unfortunately, they can't do anything about that this year since they got swept again by Josh McDaniels. But, you can set personal goals, you can set team goals, and you can say, hey, look, we're going to look and see who the future of this team is, who wants to be here and who doesn't, and go from there. And I think that's where you've got to you got to look at it in kind of the micro sense. The macro sense of, hey, the playoffs, that's out of the picture for now. Micro sense is we need to win one game, and we need to see who we got that's got the dog in them, and who's going to be, a Raider next year.
Yeah, and hopefully we can go into the end of the season with some positive momentum, and if some reason we don't make the playoffs, which, again, is looking bleak right now, we still can feel good going into the offseason and say, hey, man, we didn't do so well the first half of the season coming out of the start of the second half of the season, but we got strong near the end there, and we showed everybody what the potential that we have. And I really think they got to show it to Broncos Country too, man, because Broncos Country needs that right now.
Mm-hmm. I think you have to look at this as we're probably not going to make the playoffs, but we can definitely get second in the AFC West. Even though we're last right now, we can get second. We stack enough wins.
I don't know.
Do that.
That's going to be tough for a lot of Broncos fans. I mean, especially the expectations of the season. But there's a certain amount of accepting where you are rather than what you want to be. And I think sometimes you can even take a look at the team itself and saying that's a little bit of where the misses happened this year. There was expectations on. We heard from Russ Wilson, hey, we want to be good at all the things on the offense. Like, well, you aren't even good at one thing right now. Find one thing you can be good at offense before you say we're going to be good at all of it.
But I think you made a great point there when you talk about accepting what you are versus what you want to be. And it's not just accepting what you are. It's knowing what you are and then getting to the point where you want to be. Because I don't think you want to accept what you are. What you are right now is bad, and you don't want to accept that. You want to accept that here's where we are and then find the path to improvement.
Yeah, you certainly want to improve. And, again, go into the season with, some confidence, because right now I don't know if the confidence level is super high, just knowing the guys have been, doing everything they could to win, but it's been coming up short every week. There's got to be a tough feeling, man, to put everything you got into this game and not get out what you want. And I've been on teams where that's happened before, and, I know the feeling of it. And, it's almost a feeling of like, man, what can we do right? It's like everything we do, it's like it's not working. It's not working, and but guess what? You can't give up. You can't like I said, you can't stay at home. You still got to come into work. And in a profession like this, in all sports, man, you always want to be getting better. Again, even if we don't make the playoffs, you're always playing for something.
Yeah, and losing
always playing for something.
Right.
And in the beginning, we said we're trying to build something special, and maybe it starts with this week.
Yeah, well,
even though a lot of starters aren't here, we already know about the injury situation. That's huge. let's try to make something special with the guys that we have.
Absolutely. Well, and losing can be pervasive, and it can snowball on you. And we're seeing that happen. It's a confidence thing, right? Just like winning, right? I mean, you start winning, and that can be something where you can build on. But there's a confidence that has to come with that. And I think you hit it perfectly right there. You saw an example even in the Raiders game, right? You have the fumble at the goal line, which led to a blocked field goal, which led to Montreal Washington with the muff at the goal line on the kickoff, which led to a 3. I mean, it just keeps going. And so it sort of just starts to creep in to everybody's mindset. Like, oh, here we go again. This is what we do. We always find ways. We're up 10-0 3 times this year. Yeah. And you just find ways to lose those games. So for me, I guess the question I have for you is about the culture. It's about how to find a way out of that, how to build that confidence. What do you need to do?
I'll tell you what, man, on our teams, when we had things going wrong, guess what? A playmaker would step up and make a play.
Yeah.
And we have several playmakers on the team, and we got to have more of that. We got to have guys stepping up, making plays. It may not be the whole team may not be playing great, but guess what? You can play great, And I think everybody in that room, in the on the team, has that mindset. Well, if everyone on the team has that mindset of I'm going to make a play. I don't care what. I don't care who's playing bad. I'm going to make a play. I'm going to make a big stop. I'm going to get an interception. I'm going to catch a touchdown pass. I'm going to get some yak yardage. I'm going to do something to make a big play to help my team win.
But how do you find the balance? And I'd love to get your thoughts on this too, Ben. How do you find the balance between going to go make a play and then doing too much and maybe make a mistake, like freelancing? Because we talk about freelancing too.
Definitely can't do that. Definitely can't freelance. And then, I say all big plays start with the offensive line. And, I noticed this past week there were a lot of quick passes that looked really good. And, we're getting the ball down the field. So it did come into play to where the offensive lineman had to block for such a long period of time. And, that worked really well. And guys were making plays. But when you start dropping those passes and or not being accurate with the pass, then, hey, that's where you start kind of not being the playmaker that you are. But you always want to be a playmaker and make those plays. They may seem simple. They may seem like, we're just digging and dunking. But guess what? You could take one and make somebody miss and take it to the house. So, I just want hopefully everybody to have that mindset of, hey, I'm going to make a play. If all 11 guys on the field have that attitude, we're going to have a lot more plays made than lost.
I think if you're the Broncos right now, specifically on offense, you got to strip this thing all the way back down, sand it all the way back down. You got to say, look, the season's gone, right? So we don't need to win the season. We need to win this game. Let's go find the things we want to be good at. Let's install that this week, and let's go practice the hell out of that. And then let's go put it to our opponent this week on those concepts and just start there. Start with the smallest concentric circle, the most basic premise. We're going to be good at this. This is our identity. We're going to go out and execute this against those opponents and win a football game. And then you build off that. Then the next game, you put in the next few things that you want to be good at. And I feel like if you do that one step at a time, at the end of the season, you wake up and hey, we strung together 5 wins in our last 7. We got a little momentum here. We got a bedrock.
Well, and think about it in terms of big picture, right? Because, you're going to come up short of the playoffs. And some fans, that's still not going to be good enough. But for the locker room, for the organization, for what you want to be as the core going forward, you say, boy, if we just started faster, we closed really well in the toughest part of our schedule.
That's the thing, though. I mean, this is the toughest part. We looked at the schedule before the season started, and we said, man, this first half of the season, we got to get out to a nice start. We got to be, 6-3, 5-4, or how many games do we have? 8 or 9?
We had 8.
We had to be 5-3 or 6-2, and I thought that was doable. But and now we're going into the meat of the season where we're going to come up against some really, really good teams here, and this certainly should be one of the games that we should win. Coming up against the Carolina Panthers, we said that about a lot of other games. They've been close games, so it's not going to be an easy game by any stretch. Just watching them play Baltimore, man, they were in the game until the fourth quarter. And Baltimore kind of pulled away there. So, we can't take anything for granted. But if we're going to do something this year, it starts with this week.
100%. Now, again, confidence. We were just talking about that. What gives you confidence about the Broncos against the Carolina Panthers right now? Because you're right. It doesn't matter the opponent, right? I mean, you'd say when we looked at the schedule, we said, well, this is a game they have to have. Just like we said, the Raiders at home was a game you had to have. So what gives you confidence that the Broncos will get this game?
Well, I would say we strung together some nice drives. We didn't punt. Did we punt the whole first half?
They did not.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that gives me some confidence that, hey, we're doing some things right. Defensively, we know we have a great defense. We didn't have our best game defensively. Pastor Tan, he was going up against the best wide receiver in the league, and hey, that's going to happen sometimes. But I think they'll come back, they'll bounce back and be. They've been way more consistent than we played this past week, and I think they'll show back up and play well.
You feel that way about the defense too, considering some of the breakdowns we saw.
Absolutely. And looking at film, there were some. Although they play really good defense, there were some things that could be cleaned up. You saw some guys running stunts and, they run into each other and, just timing that down. We do have some new guys on the defense as well. So that's going to take a little bit of time as well. But I still have the confidence that they're going to have the creativity. I saw the play where Josie Jewell got the sack. Man, they ran those games perfectly. It was perfect. Just the timing. They didn't. Everybody knew where the other guy was, and they were crossing at the right time. And Josie came around the edge there to get that sack. It was a beautiful executed defense.
So when it comes to Pat Surtain, this is the last couple things here for you. But when it comes to Pat Surtain, this was one of those games where Davante Adams really wanted to show. I mean, you saw it at the end when he was talking about he's too young and all that stuff. So it felt like this was an intentional thing. I think this is only going to help Pat Surtain's growth.
100%. And I figured going into the game, because the last time we played him, Pat Surtain did pretty well against him. He didn't have 100 yards on Pat Surtain. He had 100 yards receiving, but all of those were on Pat Surtain. And just being the competitor that Davante Adams is, competitors like going up against other guys that can play, and I bet he took that as a challenge. Like, hey, come on, man, I'm Davante Adams, the best receiver in the league, and Pat Surtain is a young cornerback, and he's an amazing cornerback. Don't get me wrong, but when you're going up against a guy who's as crafty and who has so many things in his bag of tricks. It takes a while to learn how to play against those guys, and they're going to beat you sometimes. The best receiver in the league is going to be the best corner in the league sometimes, but guess what? Got to keep bouncing back. And, I have no doubts that Pat Surtain, I don't think I guarantee you it didn't phase him. He's going to be right back balling next week.
Well, and you could tell, like, when Davante, when he was celebrating that second touchdown, he ain't ready yet. When he was celebrating there in the tunnel, like I was on the other side of the tunnel back there, I could hear all the things that were saying. You could tell he was happy that he'd done that against a great player.
Yeah.
Like, competitors want to compete, and they want to compete against the best. Kobe didn't want to just score on some nobody. Kobe wanted to eviscerate the best, and that's what great competitors want to do.
Yeah, and so, again, you think about...
He gives up for those games, too. He gives up for the big players, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. So, no, I'm 100% with you. I sort of feel as though this will be a good learning experience for him. I think a lot of the guys in the core of this team, they're going to look back at this season in a lot of ways and say, boy, a lot of missed opportunities. But if we get off to a bit of a faster start, if we can close out some of these loops, I think that the Broncos ultimately are going to be better for it long term. But it starts with building some kind of confidence, and hopefully they can do that this week against Carolina.
Yep.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. For Benjamin Allbright, Steve Atwater, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.
Salute in Denver, and you got the world champions that live in your town.